is that there are some places that have such familiarity that they want a pure English speaking, purebred mom, sister, brother, cousin working from home, working on their leads.
Internet marketers in our world, everything's about increasing revenue, but usually like if you got a real physical location and things like that, like your overhead is like often 80-90% of like what you got to manage. And if there's opportunities to decrease that, you're totally spot on that. And especially like when it actually works better when it's cheaper, like that's when it becomes like super no-brainer.
And the thing you have to also realize, what we've done is we set up our call center a little bit different. I know there's different ways to think through this, and we've had to get down to like brass tacks with what people want. I mean, people want closed appointments. They don't want to have a call center. They want closed appointments. So we've set ourselves up to be a little bit differently than maybe the average per hour charge that we see in the industry. So we see a lot of different call centers supporting agencies like maybe the person who's listening right now or watching this. And they typically will run an hourly rate or a monthly rate or some sort of plan that's based off of time. Yeah. Where we've gone at this as we will do it off of a per lead basis. And internally, we pay our people to book. So they get paid incentive to close. So if they close the appointment, they get a commission. Now, we obviously pay them an hourly rate too, so we have to kind of calculate it, but we've come up with a number that we feel is pretty fair and that customers don't have a problem paying for it. And that maybe another agency or another person who could either do this as a white label solution, they could bump it up a little bit, or they could just do a pass through, or they could double it. I mean, it's up to them. But the concept is if you pay per lead or you pay, then each individual lead is an opportunity for our team to close, so they know that they continue to call this person or text or email or whatever, send smoke signals to, that inevitably that if they can get that person on the appointment, they're going to get a commission. So there's no, it's not a time-bound thing. It's an effort-based thing. Right. And I think that's different. So think about that.
Especially because if you run an agency, you got 30, 40 leads in a week, but you don't necessarily need somebody standing by the phone 24 hours a day and don't have the budget for that, but you want all of those 30 calls to be processed that you generated, whatever, pay-per-use just makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And I think that also helps the patient or the client, with understanding that this is a game of like that those leads that come in, if they don't necessarily end up being touched the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, they're getting nurtured, right? So that's the other piece of this. And that's why we call it a lead nurturing, because they're actually being communicated with. Right. So that's a big difference. We all set up SMS, we all set up emails, we all set up automations, we all set up AI stuff, but the physical communication with someone is a big difference. Now, you and I have had this discussion before, which is, okay, US based versus Philippine based, Nicaragua based versus whatever based, moon based. I agree with you to some respect. A true English American speaking person will probably do better in general than someone who is going to be offshored for only one reason, is that there are some places that have such familiarity that they want a pure English speaking, purebred mom, sister, brother, cousin working from home, working on their leads. I get it. I think what we've done, and which is unique, is we've cherry picked like the highest possible, hardest working people that will work, and because they're getting, this is literally paying for their life, people into our call center, that they love to do this. So there's a difference between someone who loves to do this, and this is the only thing they want to do through their life, and they're making their living out of it, as opposed to a work-at-home person who could, if I lose this job or I make this job,
10 extra bucks every time I pick up the phone, kind of thing.
Correct. So think about that. There's a challenge on both sides, but what we see is definitely about a 30% increase in conversions when we start to take over And again, we have a staff.
Can I just say, especially too, with like niches like you're in, like medical and dentistry and like really like any sort of high-end services where it matters, because they tend to, not always, but they tend to be older demographics. And so they're not always text people. Like if you're dealing with somebody who's 60 or above, they're not like, I still like, I think about my mother-in-law who still books flights in this day and age by calling Delta Airlines and spending 45 minutes with them on the phone and discussing options. There's no like, go to, any one of these 1,000 travel websites. And so with somebody like that, if you're trying to close them, like having somebody who can call them back in a timely fashion, address their concerns and bring them into the appointment. And as you usually find with medical people is that front desk person doesn't really know how to handle that call. But once they're physically there in person, they actually usually do a halfway decent job actually taking care of people and servicing them. They just don't typically understand how important the phone is in that transition.
It's the biggest bottleneck we see for forever, meaning that I've been doing this for 12 years.
Yeah, same. I've been doing it 16. It's been the same problem for 16 years.
It hasn't ever changed. And I think that's the thing I said to my team is that I want to be a call center first agency going forward. Obviously we have two divisions. We have our white label division and we have our regular division. But most of 90% of our stuff is supporting our retail environment. And I know that clients who get the call center stay on average 9 to 12 months more than the ones that don't. So the reason that's pretty evident is that we're making them more money and we're saving them that front desk cost. So why would they end up challenging us, right? And I think that relationship that you get when you start to enter into their systems, which I said from the very beginning, that's like really kind of, once you're in their systems, it gets even harder to unbundle that, because now what are you going to do now? Train somebody else to go in? So there's a lot of question marks around what I kind of consider like, what are we doing as agencies? Like, what are we supposed to do? And I think it comes down to this simple process, which is that how many pieces can we stack into a client to get them to be as close as we can as a partner? Because in reality, that's the real truth of this, is that, if you're saying you're a marketing agency or you're a digital agency for a client, then you're in the wrong positioning. Like, you've got to become a partner. And the closest way to become a partner is to get into their systems and start to understand stuff. And when we get into their financials, when we can actually enter into these systems, these point of sale systems, and tie together the physical data that's coming through on the sales that they're making by having us go through the systems and connect it to GHL and then connect it to their systems, and then we can actually get real reporting on dollars. That's the end game.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll also like my book on Amazon called Beyond the Agency Box, which you can also find by my name, Frankie Finn, and it's got a lot of awesome reviews. And it really just goes deeper on a lot of things we're talking about, everything you need to grow and start a lifestyle agency, from the stages you'll go through to getting clients, to how to create winning offers, to high value deliverables, to wowing clients, to building teams, to building systems, and building a boring factory that's like a 7-figure money machine for you. So if you're interested, I put links for you in the video description, as well as it'll be in the pinned top comment below, and make sure to check those out.